Hello and welcome to podcast 26 from Football-Oranje, the first of 2018. I'm Football-Oranje writer Michael Statham, and today I'm joined by Football-Oranje editor Michael Bell and fellow writer James Rowe. We'll be discussing the January transfer window, the return of the Eredivisie, including Erik ten Hag's arrival at Ajax before their crunch match with Feyenoord, and we'll answer your questions sent in via social media. Make sure to like this podcast and subscribe to Football-Oranje wherever you're listening, via SoundCloud, iTunes or YouTube. So, welcome listeners, and we're going to start our conversation on the January transfer window. And there have been some big moves already, and I think there should be no better place to start than talking about Virgil van Dijk, 75 million quid.
I think Premier League wise, money wise, the way it is now, having Van Dijk on that big a contract, the money is just what you have to pay in modern football for someone as good as Van Dijk is. Is he the best defender in the world? Probably not. But he definitely is one of the best centre backs in the Premier League, and you know, Southampton knew what they had. They knew that Liverpool really wanted him, so they got the price that his market value is. I think he saw in the first game where he scored the winner against Everton, you know, he's starting to repay some of that. It's going to be a while before he repays 75 million. But you know, it's just when you look at the Dutch transfer window, you know, records, and you know, some of the players that have gone in the past. Mark Overmars was the previous record holder, you know, back in the 1990s of 40 million. You know, now Van Dijk's the most expensive Dutchman of all time when you think of all the names that, you know, Holland have produced, the Sneijder's, Van Persie's more recently. It's quite startling to think that it's a centre back that's going to be the Dutch record holder when you think of all the attacking talents.
I think that Liverpool have paid an awful lot of money for Van Dijk to plug a gap that they so badly need. If you look at Van Dijk's transfer fee from when he signed from Groningen to Celtic was only 2.6 million, and he signed for Celtic back in 2013, so how quickly things can go. He's played 16 times for the Netherlands since making his debut in 2015. He is a good defender, but I certainly don't think he's worth that. And you know, he's got experience with British football, having played for Celtic more than 50 times, and I think he will improve at Liverpool. But I think the hype surrounding it personally has gone a little bit too far.
Yeah, hopefully he'll improve to the level where he can be more relied upon for the Netherlands, as they do need a consistent centre back who's going to be there game in, game out. Maybe this move to Liverpool will help Oranje in general and hopefully tighten him up defensively. He is one of the standout performers in the Premier League. He rates upon as one of the best passers in the league in terms of centre backs. He also wins one of the most in terms of aerial duels, tackling, and he's a very, very good defender. I think now he needs to really kick on, because he didn't have a great start to the season with Southampton, maybe because of all these rumours flying around. But you can't deny he's a world-class centre-back. 75 million is a lot, but maybe that's just today's market. Speaking of Dutch players in the transfer window, Sneijder has moved to Qatar. Is it the end for him? Has he got much left in his career now?
Personally, I think this is maybe his last move. He signed, I think it's a 1.5 year contract. I think he's gone for one last payday before he retires. I think you saw at Nice, you know, he was struggling with injuries. Even when he was getting games, he wasn't really having sort of an impact. I think in Europe, you know, teams just don't play the way they can rely on Sneijder anymore. Even when he was playing for the national team, you would plug him out wide. You know, I know new Netherlands boss isn't going to want to call on Sneijder, so I think his international career's over, so he might as well just spend a year and a half in the sun in a league where, you know, he's going to be the big name, along with, I think Xavi plays there as well. They've given him the captaincy and probably a lot of money, and I think Sneijder just took it. I'd have rather seen him maybe going to America, but you can't fault him. You know, his career's come to an end. He's 33, 34. He's probably got another year and a half in him. He's just taking the pay packet.
I translated the comments that he gave to his upon his arrival when he signed during his unveiling, and he was adamant that he's come for footballing reasons, and he was adamant about the Qatar looking ahead to 2022 and footballing culture, and especially wanting to help the younger players improve and be there in an education sense to help the team improve. I think if you look at his career with Ajax, Real Madrid, Inter and Galatasaray, I think after Galatasaray he was at a massive crossroads where he was linked to the Premier League, he was linked with a move back to Spain or back to Italy, and things have taken a turn where when he arrived at Nice was in a lot of... Nice was in form when he signed in terms of having just knocked Ajax out of the Champions League qualifiers and having a dangerous team, and you could see why he went there, but he obviously wasn't fit, and the coach Lucien Favre was never really convinced of his fitness to play him regularly and for him to pay the confidence back. And I think he's taken the opportunity with a career being quite short to earn as much as possible. And it's when you look at what Xavi has been doing in Qatar, and people seem to be happy with him, and I think Sneijder will toe the line and be as professional as possible, and to take the final pay packet and to try and see out his career with his head held high in that respect.
Yeah, one of the true Netherlands greats that's finally retiring, and another one as well is Robin van Persie, who's looking like he's on the verge of completing a move to come back to Feyenoord, and what a place to start as well. His first game to Klassieker, if he does sign in time, Ajax Feyenoord, and is it likely that he'll make a transfer in time? Does anyone know?
Well, I checked today, and there's been no developments. There was rumours of a potential medical taking place on a Saturday afternoon, but I think we'll hear more of. I think we'll hear more of the transfer going into this week. And I think it's just a question of time as to whether the registration is done. I think Van Persie wants to return to his city of Rotterdam. He wants to play for Feyenoord again. And I think if the move does go through, it will give the club a massive impulse, especially the second half of the season, because although they're many points behind PSV and had a difficult time in Europe, to have such a world-class striker back amongst their ranks will give them a lot of confidence going forward.
You've got to wonder where Van Persie fits into this Feyenoord side, though. Is he going to be, a winger? Because he's not going to get ahead of Jorgensen up front, so you can't really see them playing him as a striker. Is he going to play on the left-hand side? Because obviously Boetius hasn't had as much of an impact as they thought he would have this season. They've got Sam Larsson. On the right-hand side, they got Berghuis. So where do you guys think that Van Persie's actually going to fit into this starting 11?
I think he's going to be playing in the 10, because I don't think he has a pace anymore to be a winger. It was his original position, but I think he'll play just behind Jorgensen. That's why I think he'll be best used, coming into the box quite late to score those goals.
Yeah, I agree. I think the number 10 role will be suited to him. I think he can easily adapt. I think he'll just like with Derek Kuyt, he'll want to do the best for the team in whatever position he's picked for, and with his experience in leading a young group, and with his ambition as in terms of wanting to finish his career in the best way possible. I think he will come back to Feyenoord to have unfinished business to win domestic honours again.
There is a long way to go, isn't there, for Feyenoord now, the title race, but he will definitely add that little bit of incentive, a little bit extra goal threat that they just were lacking at the start of the season. The previous 3 games before the winter break, they scored 15 goals. So the goals are coming back, but they were against weaker sides. Does Van Persie add that little bit extra firepower that can give them a victory away at Ajax?
I think so. I think somebody like Van Persie can score from anywhere. He's a dead ball master. He can score free kicks. He can, as a number 10 position, he will definitely link up the play a bit better than what they've got now. You think he'd probably take Tunstra's place in the midfield, and if they can get him in any position, he's got to be very fired up, especially coming up against, say, Dolberg's out, so it's going to be a Klassieker and Huntelaar Ajax. Them two had a feud in the national team It's going to be very interesting to see them going head to head on the pitch in such a big game, an Ajax Feyenoord game in Amsterdam. If it is going to be Van Persie's debut, you've got to think he's going to be really fired up to prove a point, and it could be an absolute cracker.
Yeah, I really hope so. You've got Erik ten Hag as well taking charge of Ajax, and what's he going to add to it as well? It's a really exciting game. There's going to be so many different sides to it, and it is the first game as well, coming back from the winter break. I think this leads on quite nicely to a question from David, who says, loving the podcasts, the quality's improving even more. Looking forward to the podcast, which is this one. And what do you guys think about Erik ten Hag as the new Ajax manager?
I think it's a good move. I think it's as Van der Sar stated on the article that I translated earlier on today. They made a mistake in appointing Marcel Keizer, and they wanted to give it a chance, and they wanted to give him to the end of the season. But they felt that given the ambition of the club, and especially with the results, losing to Vitesse at home and getting knocked out of Europe, they didn't really see much progression. And they've got in a manager who's done tremendous work at Utrecht, making them difficult to beat. He's also got experience abroad, having trained the reserve team of Bayern Munich when Guardiola was there. He's also been assistant at FC Twente and PSV Eindhoven, and I think ten Hag also realises that this is a good opportunity for him. And it was very interesting to hear Matthijs de Ligt say about the tactical training that's been done since ten Hag has arrived, because they didn't really do that before. And I think you'll see Ajax improving in a tactical sense under ten Hag. One thing I do want to say about the Klassieker, although it's a much appreciated game in terms of the rivalry, the fact that both sets of fans cannot attend, neither in Amsterdam nor Rotterdam, really takes away from the spectacle. I was at the last Klassieker where both fans were in attendance, and that was in August 2005, and final won 2-0, and that's actually the last time they won in Amsterdam. And now you only have, in the case of the Arena, only fans of Ajax, and it really takes away from the spectacle. So you would hope that that the Dutch FA and the people that represent Ajax and final can come to some agreement to put that right for future years, because you're closing in on 15 years of it's already 12, but you'll be closing in soon enough on 15 years of the most renowned game of Dutch football, where both sets of supporters are not able to attend. So hopefully that can be put right sooner rather than later.
Yeah, absolutely. The fans are so key to a fixture like that. And David's second question actually talks about the atmosphere, James. Maybe you can give a helping hand here too. He says he'd love to see Ajax at some point this year, to get more, but also to get an experience of a more rustic atmosphere at a smaller stadium in the Eredivisie or the Jupiler League. James, could you recommend a good game to go for Ajax, or maybe lower down the Eredivisie or in the second division?
Well, if you look at the fixtures coming up, you've got Ajax play Den Haag at the end of February, which is always a spicy encounter. And they've also got home games coming up against FC Twente and NAC Breda. And they also play Venlo in April midweek, so that should be quite interesting. I think the atmosphere at Ajax under Keizer was a little bit at times imbalanced. Sometimes you had pockets of fans spread out the stadium that were more passionate than others, or more prepared to give Keizer a chance. But I think Ten Hag will make sure that there's a new impulse. I mean, my first game after the winter break will be NAC Breda on February the 4th, so look forward to that. Going down to the Jupiler League, I would suggest that if the gentleman does come to the Netherlands, that Go Ahead Eagles would be a good choice. That would be my choice. Deventer is not too far away, and it's a real nice city centre, nice and quiet and tranquil. And Go Ahead have an absolutely fantastic reputation. I mean, they're a real family club, really warm club where the fans really get behind them. And I actually went to the Adelaarshorst when I interviewed Leon de Kogel back in September. And even the stadium itself, it is quite impressive. It's in an area where there's houses surrounding it, and it's not too far from the city centre. You can even walk there from the city centre, and it's. I had like a mini tour from the press officer at the time, and it's just it's a special stadium where the fans get behind them. So if I was to make a suggestion, I would definitely say that in the Eredivisie, try to get to the arena for Ajax, and then if you are entertaining the notion of the Super League, I would suggest go ahead Eagles in Deventer.
I would suggest to anyone listening to attend NAC Breda in the Eredivisie. What an atmosphere! What a club! They're too low down the division to represent the true size of the club and just the true atmosphere that the fans can generate. James, I really want to go back to what you're saying about Erik ten Hag and how I find it interesting that you said that. I didn't know that the players had been doing all this extra tactics training, and it's interesting to hear that. I'm not surprised at all though. Ten Hag is a very tactical trainer. He does like his attacking formations. I think we'll see him use either the 5/3 at the back that he used to play at Utrecht, or that 4-4-2 diamond that he used to use there as well. He really just played to the player's strengths, but I did like the way that he would often shift the play out wide. They get an overload on the side of the pitch, but also get loads of runners into the box. Midfielders, strikers, the left winger will be in there if the play is coming down the right. And it just added so much more goal threat. And especially at home, it can really help break down defences. Michael, what do you think about Erik ten Hag? Do you think he's going to bring some extra life to Ajax? Do you think he's going to lift the title race once more?
Definitely, I think of any appointment Ajax could have made, I think Ten Hag is the best choice. He's proved himself at Utrecht, what he's done there. I think he's taken them as far as he can. The players that he had there, he's got the best out of them, and he's taken over an Ajax side that's got so much potential and so much talent. He bled youth at Utrecht, and now he's got a pool of so many talented youngsters in Amsterdam that, and it's such an attacking side. The two just seem to go together perfectly. Kaiser couldn't get the best out of them, but I think Ten Hag, he's more tactical. I think he's got win games just through substitutions, which Kaiser couldn't do. He was often criticised for making the wrong choices from the bench, but I think Ten Hag tactical, get it right from the start. He'll switch things up when needed, and I think he's just got more of a footballing brain that's been moulded. He even said that Pep Guardiola, Bayern Munich, helped him out and shaped his vision. I think he's going to turn this side around in the second half of the season. I think PSV will need to be at their best to keep them from catching them. It's only 5 points. I think you're looking at Ajax PSV when that comes around. You're looking at Ajax Feyenoord this weekend, and even the signings that Ajax are going to make. He's even talking about bringing in Zakaria Labiad from Utrecht. I think that'll add an extra dimension from the bench. When you're looking at Ajax, sometimes they're bringing on CM de Jong, but say if Ziyech's not performing well in the midfield, then bringing on Labiad would just add something, that an extra spark that maybe Ajax don't have. And I think watching them is going to be the most exciting thing for the second half of the season.
Yeah, they're really going to be breathing down PSV's necks, okay, I have to admit. Relating to Ajax, a question from Cam on Twitter. If Younes stays, does he get a starting spot back from Kluivert?
No, absolutely not. If Ten Hag wants to continue the highlights that Kaiser managed to have at certain times, then he's got to start Justin Kluivert at every available opportunity. He's coming more and more prominent in games. He's more and more of a presence. I was at the 5-1 win against the LDSA back in November, and to be so young and to take the game by the scruff of the neck and want to score, want to create, and you can see that with Kluivert, with the nucleus of Donny van der Beek and Frenkie de Jong as well, they really enjoy playing with each other. They really enjoy setting each other up, encouraging each other and motivating each other. So if I was Erik ten Hag, I wouldn't entertain the notion of Younes starting over Justin Kluivert.
And Cam's second question was, who do you think is the next Eredivisie player to break the league's transfer record? And it's funny you put that after the Kluivert question, because I don't think you can look much further than it being one of Ajax's young super talents. No other team in the league has so many young players that are playing at the top level at such a young age. Personally, I would put my money on, pardon the pun, Matthijs de Ligt, a superb defender. We've all been hearing about how good he is, and the level he's playing at already. And I think that there will be a massive money move for him in the summer, or maybe the summer after that. What do you guys think?
I agree, but I also think if you're going to Ajax, you got to say Frankie de Jong has a great chance. He's come on leaps and bounds this season. You know, all the biggest teams in Europe are wanting him. He's signed a big contract. He's only going to get better and better. If he improves under Ten Hag, then he's going to, I think, steal the limelight from Matthijs de Ligt. You see it on Twitter. The amount of highlight reels that every single game that Frankie de Jong plays is like highlight reels from all the talent that he's got and all the passes that he can do. He just can do anything with a ball. I think if he moves into midfield, I think the big clubs are all going to come from him, and it's going to get into a battle, and the money's just going to go up and up and up.
I think they would both be wise to stay where they are short term. I think that's important for them both. They're still very, very young, both of them. And in the case of Matthijs de Ligt, he's only 18 years of age, and to be linked with FC Barcelona at that age, you'd be wise to stay in Amsterdam a few more seasons yet. The most impressive thing about de Ligt is when he's speaking to the media, he always sounds extremely mature and always has a massive motivation to learn. Even when I did the translation of his quote, speaking about the training sessions under Erik ten Hag, about the willingness to learn, about the tactical training, about improving in a positional sense. And these are things that will stand him all in good stead for the future. And there's absolutely no need at all for a very promising 18-year-old Dutch defender to leave one of the most famed academies, not just in the Netherlands but also in Europe. Having come through that, and to make your debut in the first team and to have such a promising start to a career, there's no need to give all that up at the age of 18 to go and play in La Liga or to go and play in Serie A or the Premier League. If he continues to improve at the rate he's doing, the same goes for Frenkie de Jong. The teams that are linked with them both now, they will return for them both. It's not as if the train is coming and they've got to board that train. Otherwise, these teams will never come again. If they both take a step back and evaluate and continue their progression, the clubs that are linked with them now will return for them both. And to wait 1 or 2 seasons more, or even 3, would be the best for them both, in my opinion.
Fair enough. That's a good point. And you've seen in the past how many players will have left the likes of Ajax far too early and just not succeeded. Question from Gareth. I was hoping that Erik ten Hag would have been given the national team job with him being a young manager with fresh ideas. Could that Ajax appointment be seen as an audition for a future role with the national team?
Definitely, he's probably the most promising Dutch coach in the Eredivisie at the moment. And after a couple of years with Ajax, say if Ronald Koeman takes over the national team now, when he's ready to leave, then Ten Hag will definitely be the next one. He'd be ready for it. He's only in his early 50s, Ten Hag. A couple of years with Ajax, then I think he'll probably want to go abroad and try again there. Then the national team's definitely a future option.
I think potentially it's a future option for him. He's only 47 years of age, but I think for him the important thing is to get Ajax winning titles and to improve his reputation. And then I think, given his experience with Bayern Munich, I think he would look to go abroad, maybe back to Germany to manage a club in his own right. But I think he's got every right to be selective. He's got. There's no need to, even if he does succeed with Ajax, there's no need, like in the case of Peter Bos, as soon as the first club comes, to jump ship again. I think we'll see Ten Hag at Ajax for quite some time, at least 2 seasons.
Yeah, it's going to take a while for him to develop into that high-level manager that the Netherlands need. And this relates on to a question from William. As we head into spring, who do you see as the emerging favourites to manage the Oranje? is Koeman a lock, or will they go foreign? James, you live in Amsterdam. What's the latest over there? What's the latest news on a new manager? I mean, it's gone very quiet, hasn't it? And Koeman has been rumoured for quite a while.
Yeah, it's gone quiet from the last time that Erik Rowe, who was at Feyenoord, who had a fantastic relationship with Koeman. He's now Erik Rowe is now involved with the Dutch FA, and he's made it quite clear in one media interview that he did with the NOS that he plans on taking his time and looking at all the available assets and facets to such a decision. He even mentioned looking at nations like Iceland and Serbia and Belgium in terms of their passion and organisation as to what the Netherlands could do better. Koeman is the initial favourite, although Rutte himself has stated that he wants the new man in place by the time the friendlies come round in March against Wales in Rotterdam and against England in Amsterdam. As someone who's moved to the Netherlands and has lived there for nearly 12 years, I don't believe that the country would be receptive to a foreign manager. I think the people, especially in the media, that were advocating a foreign coach once Advocaat had left the position, I think they were only talking in order to be heard, to say, "Oh, I told you so," or "Oh, it's something new and something exciting." My tip and my example would be this: Argentina don't do it, Brazil don't do it, Germany don't do it, France don't do it. These nations would never entertain the notion of employing a national team manager from outside of the country, because they know that the person sitting on the bench wearing that suit with that emblem on is representing their people in their country. And I would advocate the Dutch FA employing Koeman at the earliest possibility. I think there's rankings as regards to the Everton debacle in terms of disclosure agreements and what can be said and what can't be appointed. But they would do well to look at their neighbours Germany. If you look back into the early 2000s when German football was in abyss, they came so close to appointing current Crystal Palace manager Roy Hodgson as their national team manager. And Hodgson was on the verge of signing with the German FA, and they went back to him and they had to explain to him that we're the German FA and we're Germany and we have to be seen to sort our own problems out. And they dug right down into youth level to change all the different things, and now they're arguably the best team in the world in terms of youth development and on what they can give their national team. And the Netherlands would be wise to look at that example and to employ a Dutchman as coach. And Koeman has a history of moulding teams together. You see Ajax in 2003 when they almost reached the semi-finals of the Champions League with an average age of 19. It was Koeman that put that side together. When he was in charge of PSV, when they won titles, there was good quality players involved in the first team, and they managed to win titles. You see the youth setup that he arranged at Feyenoord. He has a history of moulding a young team, and this is exactly what the national team needs. So if I was the Dutch FA, if I was Erik Rowe, I would definitely employ Koeman as national team manager.
No, I totally agree. I think the Dutch FA are taking their time, rightly so. They've got plenty of time before the next match, and I think it's only a matter of time before eventually Koeman takes over, and he's definitely the right man for the job.
Hopefully it's a matter of time before we find out, because it's turning into a very long wait now, and I think we're just really excited to hear who that new person is that's going to be the figurehead of the revival of the Netherlands.
Definitely think there'll be some sort of secret communication between Huda and Koeman. There'll probably be some sort of initial contact that's just not been leaked to the media yet. There's nothing stopping Koeman right now preparing for it and watching Eredivisie games, scouting players for whenever he does take charge. I think it's only a matter of time.
Speaking of the Dutch managers, Dick Advocaat, who has just left the Netherlands position, has taken over at Sparta Rotterdam. And Michael, James, I know you're both very excited actually to see how he gets on, because Sparta have been struggling in the Eredivisie. They're down the bottom three, but does he have that one last little kick to get them out of trouble?
I think so. I think so. I think with his experience, he's also played for Sparta Rotterdam in the past. He knows what that club demands, and I think with his experience, I think it's also fantastic for the Eredivisie to have such a revered manager returning to the National League of the Netherlands. Bert van Marwijk had the opportunity to return to Go Ahead Eagles a few years ago because he played there during his career, and he had the opportunity to return to manage Go Ahead Eagles and get them out of trouble and keep them in the Jupiler League, and for some reason he didn't take it. And I think Dick Advocaat is excited by the challenge, and I think I can see him keeping Sparta Rotterdam up. I think there's 17 games to go, many twists and turns, but it's a fantastic impulse for the club as well, because Sparta Rotterdam, along with Go Ahead Eagles, naturally everybody has their club here in the Netherlands, whether it's Ajax, Feyenoord, Willem II or Groningen, but the majority, the common consensus is always that clubs in particular like Sparta Rotterdam and like Go Ahead Eagles, they're so well respected because of their history and the warmth of the club, and being proper football clubs that are involved in the community and involved in the cities where they're based, and that can only be a good thing.
I think it adds some excitement to the second half of the season as well. Advocaat, he's obviously an experienced coach, but he's been given the go ahead to get some deals done during the transfer window. He's already signed Dos Santos and Fred Friday from AZ. We've got a young defender from Fenerbahce coming in. He's looking all around the Eredivisie to add more and more talent to the squad. And young talent, Sam Lammers, the PSV striker. He's not really getting a game this season. He's now one they looked at Adam Meyer as well, who wasn't a big fan of moving. It looks like he's going to go to FC Twente. I think if he moulds the squad, I think they become just one of the good sides to watch in the second half of the season. And Advocaat, I think, will definitely keep them up. I think they'll have too much quality for the teams around them at the bottom if they do strengthen. And he's only there till the end of the season. Then I think the club will look to appoint someone that can take them even further. But I think it's very smart for the club to go to someone like Advocaat, who's obviously a big fan of the club, and he's obviously got one last passionate, position to take over and guide them to safety. Then he looks like a hero for the club.
Yeah, what an extraordinary turn of events. That someone like a team like Sparta, who have been in trouble most of the season, could now have too much quality to go down. All led by Advocaat as well, and I think he'll make a massive difference. And he just adds to a list of teams that we can watch in the second half of the season. I really hope that PEC Zwolle can keep up their form, because they're fourth at the minute, and they start off with a game against Vitesse, and if they can get a win there, then the momentum will keep on going. And I just think that that's not their first game. PEC Zwolle are playing NAC Breda first of all. Yeah. And I just think it will be nice to see them do really well and break into the top four of the Eredivisie. It will be hard to keep off the likes of RZ and Feyenoord though for those kind of positions.
We've not really mentioned the league leaders so far, really. PSV, obviously as they go for the title, they've added a young striker, Romero. He's going to be exciting to watch over the next 6 months. Sam Lammers as well. If they decide to keep him, in a recent Florida Cup friendlies, he scored twice. His second goal against Fluminense was brilliant. And we're going to see if they can hold on and hold off this Ajax side. Another team to watch obviously is AZ Alkmaar. They've been brilliant this season under Van den Brom, packed full of young talent. One to look out for there is Myron Boadu, the 17-year-old striker. He's been injured for the first half of the season, but he's coming back now. They see him as someone that's going to be at the club for the next couple of years, and very, very big talent. I think Max Huberts, the director, even said that he's got the technical ability of Dennis Bergkamp. So that's a lot of pressure to put on a 17-year-old, but he looks very special.
I think FC Twente will be interesting to watch. They're unbeaten in their last 3 games, and I think with the experience of Gert-Jan Verbeek, I can see them avoiding relegation. I think it'll be very interesting to see how Vitesse Arnhem go into the second half of the season, with it being announced that they will part ways with current manager Henk Vreese at the end of the season. And also be interesting to see how Utrecht fare under the new manager Jean-Paul de Jong, because he's played over 400 games for the club as a player, and he's been involved at youth level and really understands the club. His only previous experience came at FC Eindhoven in the Europa League, so it'll be interesting to see how he fares. And naturally, being a fan of Venlo, having interviewed Maurice Stijn, I hope they manage to have enough in the tank to avoid relegation and cap a wonderful season back in Eredivisie, having won the first division title last season.
Yeah, we have really not touched upon PSV in this podcast, and we keep talking about it, don't we? How if they can hold off Ajax, it's not as if they're going to be runaway leaders. I think all three of us have got this little inkling of doubt in our minds that maybe they don't quite have enough to make it. But what I think we will know for sure is that it will be close and it will be tight. It could be, one match between those two teams, PSV and Ajax, that makes all the difference in this title race. But it's going to be so exciting, I think.
Yeah, I agree. But I also think the pressure's on Philippe Cocu. I think the pressure's put upon himself to win a league title and on the club to win a league title. He's been there for 5 seasons now. And even though he's won 2 league titles, one of them was a last day debacle from Ajax not winning against the Graafschap and handing the title to PSV. I think Cocu, in order to stay at PSV long term, or even to sign off from the club, I think the pressure is on him from himself and also the club to deliver the title in Eindhoven this season.
I think you go look at the first round of games this weekend. If Ajax beat Feyenoord, and that puts so much confidence into them, and then PSV are away against Heracles, the last game of the weekend. That's a massive game for them. They've got to, if Ajax win, then PSV have got to win that one, or the pressure's really on. Excellent,
fantastic, guys. Anything else you want to mention?
Just a quick plug for the recent interviews that were up on the site at the beginning of the year with Arsenal ladies Daniela van der Donk, the Graafschap captain Sven Newport, and of course your interview with Bristol City ladies player Danique Kerkdijk. So for the people that haven't read or seen those interviews yet, check them out.